Okay, here we are given this diagram and asked to prove that the angle CBF, this angle is congruent to CGF. And we are told two things. We are told that BD is parallel to EG. I'm going to mark that on the diagram. And we are also told that BC is congruent to FG. I'm going to mark that on the diagram. All right, usually when you are asked to prove whether or not two parts are congruent, first you have to prove that two triangles are congruent. So I'm going to prove that this triangle is congruent to this triangle, and then I'm going to be able to prove that their corresponding parts are congruent. So I'm going to need to write a statements and reasons proof. All right, first thing in the statement of reasons proof you should do is state the given. So 1BD is parallel to EG, and BC is congruent to FG. Those were both given. All right, knowing that BC is congruent to FG gives me a side. So looking at this diagram, if I know that these lines are parallel, I know that this angle is congruent to this angle because they are alternate interior angles. So I'm going to write that down. Number 2, angle BCF is congruent to angle GFC because alternate interior angles are congruent. You can also see that this triangle shares a side with this triangle, which is side CF. So side CF is congruent to itself in both triangles, which is the reflexive property. All right, now I have a side, I have an angle, and I have another side is congruent. So the two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. Triangle BCF is congruent to triangle GFC by side, angle, side. Now that my two triangles are congruent, I can say that any of the corresponding parts are congruent. So we were trying to show that this angle, angle B, is congruent to angle G, and because they correspond to each other in the congruent statement, I can just go ahead and say that angle B therefore has to be congruent to angle G because of CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent.